What is up, my ninjas? I am Strydent, and I am here with a very special video. I want to start off by saying a big thank you and a special shout out to my homeboys Elias and TJ347. This review is actually courtesy of TJ347. Homeboy hooked me up with a bunch of the Vitruvian hacks that you see, in this video. Not all of these, but most of these guys here are the ones he hooked me up with. A couple of these are his, actually. And then I've got, various Gorgons and stuff, and bunches, all the skeletons, and these are his. I actually have Steno coming in the mail. But he hooked me up with those and more so that I could review them. He sent them my way so that you guys could get a good example, a good idea of what Boss Fight Studios has been cooking up for us. I love what they do, and this line is actually pretty dope. Although I have, a minor criticism based on exactly what these guys are, but it's still pretty dope. I mean, as you can see, just looking at them, there's a decent amount of variety. You even have females out the gate, not like what they did with Marauders. So, hence, these are the guys who sculpted the stuff for Marauders. So it's kind of dope that they came out the gate strong as heck with everything. You got monsters. I mean, look at them. You got monsters. You've got Medusa, both versions, cursed Medusa, as well as pre-cursed Medusa. You've got Ureli, and you've got Steno in the back. And I love all the shades. I'm gonna get into all this in a sec. But just a big shout out and a thank you to TJ347. Give him props in the comments. Homeboy has been he's been a huge help to me, and kind of making things happen on this channel. He digs what I do and he shows his support, and I'm honored to be able to give you guys reviews on his behalf. You know what I'm saying? So props to you, homie. You really helping out the channel, and I love it. And I do this for you guys. I mean, I would probably be looking at toys anyway, but stuff like this that I didn't really buy into until one of my homeboys, hit me to it. I wouldn't be reviewing this if it weren't for him. So, thanks again, and Merry Christmas to everybody, because it is that time. We're about a week away. And let's jump into this review. So, the Vitruvian H.A.C.K.S series was created by Boss Fight Studios. They are the sculptors of the Marauders task force figures, as well as the team being made up of former Hasbro employees. Some of them have actually worked all over the toy industry or action figure industry in general. But as you can see, it's focused on Greek mythology. I guess they said that they plan on jumping around if they can continue to get the kind of support that would allow them to do it. But you've got a lot of Greek mythology focused figures. You've got Gorgons, you've got Spartans, you've got Myrmidon, you've got Athenians, you've got Amazons. It's pretty dope. It's pretty all encompassing if you dig Greek mythology and you dig sword and sandals type shit. It works really well there. Now also, if you are a fan of G.I. Joe, then you have a lot of room for customs, and I've seen some already that are freaking amazing. I didn't really do anything fancy custom wise yet, but I have used some of the weapons and the sheaths and stuff like that for some of my, I've used one sheath for a character that has an existing blade already. It needed a sheath, but everything seems to be extremely compatible with the existing 3 3/4 inch Joes that we have from Hasbro. So the possibilities are endless there. I'm just blown away at how much mileage all these sculpts got, because everything is based off of, and you'll hear me repeat this a bunch of times throughout this video, everything's based on only a handful of sculpts, and they just mix and match parts in a more, I don't know, a more creative way than Hasbro does. And what we end up with is just light years better and more imaginative and more, you know, believable than what we get from Hasbro with their constant kit bashes and constant rehashes, and you know, it gets annoying. Everything on these guys is detailed to the nines. I mean, it's something that you kind of come to expect, and by looking at these, you know that these guys were responsible for the awesomeness that was Rise of Cobra and Pursuit of Cobra, and probably the better figures that showed up in Retaliation. I just enjoy everything that they've done. The female figures look better than what we usually get with Hasbro. The proportions of the characters are better, and it just opens up a world of possibility for your existing collections. So I'm going to get into all of the, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly. This is more of an overview. It's not a hardcore review, but I will be going over just about every angle of the whole series together. Build and articulation. This is one of those areas where it's kind of cool to see how the figures were built up to what we actually got. And you can see that you have the blank bodies, both male and female, as well as the skeleton, which is also nice because you can see that there is a kind of a focus on form and function and articulation and playability, which is something that is vital to these kinds of things. You know, when I constantly bitch and moan about engineering your figures, this skeleton and these blanks show that these guys understand the mantra of form following function. I just had a long talk with one of my ninjas about that pertaining to video games and the designs we see in video games and such, and it's at work right here. Form follows function, and they did it to the umpteenth degree here. So it kind of shows you why this shit is so good. But I'm going to get into how all this stuff works on a technical level. Okay. So in order to do this review properly, and this is the thing that's been missing from most of the reviews that I've seen on YouTube, I need to discuss what the basics are of the figures, because honestly, these three right here are the basis for the whole line, barring the Serpentine figures like this in the back. Okay, so, and essentially this top half here is exactly the same as this top half, just that instead of legs they fashioned this snake-like body. And I'll get into that articulation in a second, but I figured I would go through and we would look at, I would take you through the articulation for these guys and show you what they do that you might be familiar with and what they do that you may not be familiar with. Okay, so the thing of note about these guys is that they are highly articulated character kit system. That is what H.A.C.K.S stands for. That means, by kit system, means that you can take apart these figures completely from head to toe. Pull off the feet. You can see these are just the swivels like old school 25th and early Pursuit of Cobra and Rise of Cobra figures. And pull them off here. See, and you would normally have to do the boil and pop method for that. You can even pull them off at the shoulder. The head is on a double ball peg system, or double barbell system, I should say. So it doesn't stay in there. Essentially, you pull it off. You pull the ball joint out. You know what I mean? And so you have one ball joint going inside and you have another ball joint at the base. It's pretty dope because you're afforded SH Figure Arts like posability. I mean, look, you can look all the way down. You can look all the way up. So for flying poses, he looks a little bit more natural. You know, or if they're getting uppercutted. Ugh. Only thing I don't like, because the torso is like that too. You have an upper and a lower torso. You see? So when you lean the torso back, you get that gap. It's the only thing I don't like. But you don't get that in the back, and you can get some really good poses. With the arms, or hands, I'm sorry, they have the swivel at the wrist, and they come with 2 pairs of hands. You get 2 of the my favorite hands, which have the up and down joint. This one is kind of stiff, but it's in there. You can kind of see it from right there. It's the up and down joint. I'll take a, you know, an inset picture so you can see that part. And then you have the in and out joint, you know? So if it's a gun, if you decide to use this custom as a guy holding a gun, there you go. Now, look at the bend at the elbow. More than 90 degrees. This is what I always complain about that's missing from most Joes, and that's why a lot of them can't shoulder a rifle. I've got some AKs here. This is actually a Marauder's AK, so this will be a good example. Fits snugly, as if he was meant to be the bad guy. Anyway, so as you can see, we've got the gun in his hand. You can see he's aiming right. The buttstock is sitting in the right spot. I'll use my pointer. It's sitting right there in the shoulder area. Perfect. I mean, you can get it a little bit more perfect if you want, you know, but, you know, eyes looking down the length of the rifle. It just looks right. You know what I'm saying? Now, I know that's for guns, but now imagine if he's holding like a spear or a staff. So, say he's holding a short sword. You know, this is not a Zephos, this is just a short sword. He can actually point. See that? The same goes for if he's holding a, well, and then when you have him in slashing poses, like, you know, when he brings it across his shoulder, as a hero would, you know what I mean? It's pretty good. And I'll show you from the side so you can see what I'm talking about, you know? Perfect. You know? Straight up perfect. So he can thrust with it behind his, or under his arm, and it does not look weird, you know. I'll even aim it at the camera so you guys can see what I'm talking about. This is a forward thrust in that old school semi-pancration style, you know. So I'll put him balancing on the thingamabob, and we'll get close. You see that? That's what I'm talking about. That's the articulation that you are afforded via the H.A.C.K.S system. I dig it. I dig it a lot. I think that there are a lot of things that are missing from the Joes, and with these guys you can kind of achieve that. I mean, you can get that with the what are they called, the task force figures from Marauders, but it's pretty cool. But you know, legs move up forward that much, double jointed knee that works. Both sets of joints actually work. It's not just one joint and the other one just sitting there, you know. Everything, it's not like this one is fused and the bend is only happening down here. See the difference? Instead, both of them are being used, so you get a deeper bend. That's how you can get them kneeling down, you know. Say you want to use them as ninjas or something like that. These blank bodies you want to use to make them into ninjas or something else. You can easily get them to assume those poses. They also come with 3 different sets of heads too. I'm just using the most blank head because I don't want any character. I want to just show you the very basics of it. But see him kneeling down? No problem. No problem at all. One knee, right? We're using one knee. Look at that. perfect. He's not leaning over like what we get with a lot of G.I. Joes. So it's pretty dope. And now the cool thing too is that like the skinnier figures have a little bit of a different articulation scheme. Speaking of the differences, I'm going to show you a couple of them with the female H.A.C.K.S body and the I need to move this thing a little bit, my camera a little bit up. There we go. That's a lot better. Sorry. There we go. Much better. So, instead of having a twist at the ankle, she has the ankle pivot, which makes sense because if you think about it, the ankle is skinnier on the female body. So instead of having a peg just go straight up, why not have the peg come out of the joint? There you go. Also, something they do different on all of the H.A.C.K.S, except for the skeletons. The foot, I don't know if you can see that. It's a hole. Goes straight through the foot. So that way, all of the feet use the whole peg. See that? It's pretty dope. So right now, you can kind of see there's a gap, but if I wanted to go all the way down, just push down a little, and it goes all the way through. You see that? All the way through. It's pretty dope. So yeah, like I was saying, you have an ankle pivot. You still have the double jointed knee in which both knees work. Legs at the hip go up. There's no swivel at the hip. These legs go pretty damn far. The kick, you can twist at the waist, well, at the diaphragm actually, and the kick actually looks good. This is more like I've been telling you for a long time. This is more like the figure arts school of posability, and I like this, you know, SIC posability, you know. But you see where I'm going with this, right? Look at that. Looks really good. And so like when she brings her foot down and I want it to look like she's chambering her kick, look at how nice that looks. It looks real, it looks official, you know, and that's what I like. Oh, I gotta balance her a little bit better than that. But it looks real, like she's just about to give it to him, you know. That's what I like about these guys. It's natural articulation. And just like I showed you with the male figures, you can take her apart at the elbow as well as at the, let me get this back up in there, as well as at the shoulder. It's a little, and it sticks in really well, and there's not much in way of teeth, you know what I mean, to hold it in there. So it's kind of nice that they found a way to get that to go in all the way and hold in there as if it's not supposed to come out, but then still afford you the ability to switch out parts. So I'm impressed with that, you know, it's pretty cool. Now the thing I'm kind of annoyed with them is that they just kept on using these molds, and I get it, you paid for it, you want to use the mold over and over and over, so they use the mold over and over and over. So every single thing I'm showing you here has been freaking you know, cast over and over and over in multiple colors. You know, there's glow in the dark versions, there's, you know, the black versions, there's the gray version, there's the white version, there's the pink, there's blue, there's purple, there's translucent, there's like every freaking color you can think of. They've done a version of these guys, which is kind of frustrating. Skeletons. I have a whole bunch of skeletons. I'm just gonna spray paint them all white, or this eggshell color. They don't have pegs in their, or holes in their feet for pegs, so they come with these cool clear pieces like straps. They connect to the stand, and you put their feet in that little stirrup type deal. And it can rotate on the peg, but it allows for them to stand up on their stands. They have really good articulation, pretty much the same as the other guys. Bend at the elbow, They have the twist at the hand, and they have a joint so they can do the in and out, because their joint is actually in the wrist. It's not on the hand. The shoulder, same as them. Goes up, down. The head can look all the way up, and then it can look all the way back down, which is awesome. The legs, I'll show you the knee. Of course. Trying to be difficult when I'm on camera. Does this always happen, guys? You see this every time I do an in-camera review or an in-camera portion of a review. But you can see the feet come off. Feet can point. They have skinny ankles, so they have the ankle pivot. Hopefully you can see that. I know he's very white. You have diaphragm joints, you know. So pretty much everything that you would want to do with one of these guys, you can do. And then, oh, the jaw. I forgot. The jaw is articulated. So yeah, if you want him, I had him kneeling with a sword in his hands because I thought that would look really cool, and it did. But I mean, look at that. Homeboy looks like he is ready. Anyway, he is ready. I love it. I love it. I'm impressed with their posability, man. So pretty much that's what you're working with when it comes to these guys. It's kind of dope that we finally have, you know, figures that were kind of created for customization, but, you know, we can actually play with them if we want to. So these bucks here, they're about 14 bucks a piece on the Boss Fight store. It's perfect if you really are good at customizing, because I mean, you can paint these up however you want, you know what I mean? That gray body right there, you could prime that, and then you have an awesome base body. I mean, no matter what you do with it, you got an awesome base body. They all come with 3 heads, and I'll take pictures of those heads so you can see it, and they come with extra feet. There's like plain feet that don't have any detail on them. They look like shoes. Then they have the feet that are like sandals, and then they have the feet like you see on them that are like bare feet. And all the weapons work with all the people with the exception of Steno's staff. This staff is beautifully done, but it's kind of garbage because they didn't leave enough space in here for her to grip it. So yeah, that's it for the overview on the figures. So this review wouldn't have been complete unless we talked about the Serpentine figures articulation. So the articulation is really simple. It's a series of ball socket joints running all through here. Up in the top here you have 2 ball socket joints because you have the you know, the 2 sockets for the legs. I wonder if I could pull it apart. Oh, my mistake. You have 1, and it goes through here and it clamps onto this ball socket joint. So essentially this is what you have in the center. So this is covering that joint. My mistake. So their whole lower body, it's a different lower abdomen. So from the lower abdomen down, it's a whole different you know, design. It's pretty dope. Like I was saying, impressive engineering. And that's one of the keystones of this line, is that folks actually tried to engineer awesome figures. Come on, get back together. There we go. And so ball joints though. So anything you want to do with this, you can do. You see how smooth and fluid that motion is? And everything holds. Look at that. So standing her up is real easy, you know. Simply twist the spots the way you want them, the segments the way you want them. You know, you got to always make sure that you have enough twisted in an area so that she can lean the way that you need her to lean, and then there you go. She can stand. I'll move her closer so you can see that. So, you know, it's impressive on its own. You know, they did a really good job with all of the different movement. So, and you have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you have the one up top here. So they did a really good job giving you a shitload of articulation. So, you know, you want her to be, you know, the typical generic snake pose, you know what I'm saying? Which is what you'll probably see a lot of on the various forums and such. Sometimes they do come off real easily, but you learn where you can move them. But if you want her to move like that, you can do that. If you want her to be kind of sidewinding, you can do that. And, you know, if you're slick with it, you almost could stand her up that way. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you can stand her up that way. You just got to balance her correctly. There you go. Of course. There you go. So, you know, these are some impressive... some pretty nice stuff, but, you know, they really did the damn thing. So now, all those folks who wanted to make a Globulus custom, it's going to be easy now, because you got the lower half, you know? I'm going to make a Globulus custom, so, there. What you got to say about that, son? For all those folks who don't like Cobra La, eat it. This was made just for us. So anyway, that's that articulation. So as you can see, there's a lot of variety as far as colors. A lot of it's a little too crazy for me. Like I said, I will be spray painting all the skeletons white. Those are the blank bucks. Those are cool too. If you can paint really well, you can make use of them really well. I'm showing you this guy. He was one of the special Kickstarter exclusives, but you can see all the different parts, the 3 heads, the extra feet. Heroes and heroines. Okay, so one of the things about this line is that all of the, like I said earlier, all of the male characters, all of the female characters, all of the Serpentine characters, they all follow a certain model and essentially are just the same figure repeated with the parts interchanged. Case in point, the Athenian warrior and the Myrmidon warrior have the same lower body. I mean, the body itself is the same, with the same shin armor. As you can see, actually, let me put them in front so you can see better instead of doing this off to the side. They've got the same shin stuff going on when you look at their shins. But you move your sword out the way, homie. Sorry. But they have different greaves. But then if you look at the Athenian Stone Hand and the Athenian warrior, they have, I'll move the shield out the way so you can see it. They've got the same exact thing. They're almost the same exact figure, just different skin tone, and he has the stone hand, and he has the paint on his helmet, but everything else is the same. Their shields are usually different. The same goes for your 2 Amazonian or Amazon warriors. As you can see with Penthesilea and the Amazon warrior, they have the same so essentially this whole line is a handful of sculpts repainted. Once again, I will move these guys out the way and we'll take a look at the United. And then we'll take a look at the Spartan. Just different color greaves. And same shield. Same shin guards. Everything is the same. The other difference, the big difference too, weaponry wise, is he comes with a Zephos, whereas the Spartan warrior just comes with a long sword and a short sword. As you can see, I have the sword at his side That's it, sticking out right there. But they all pretty much come with the same stuff. The Myrmidon is actually, give me just a second so I can reach it, because I took out almost all of the figures out of their packages, but there's a couple that I did not take out of their packages because it just was too much of the same. So the Myrmidon has a decidedly African kind of look to him. You know, he's brown, he's got brown skin, he's got the thicker lips and the thicker nose and all that good stuff. Well, the disciple of Ureli has the same, you know, features going on. Let me see if I can get that back there. There we go. And I'll take some pictures of this so you guys can see it as well. So from head to toe, this guy is mostly the same. I mean, you can see all the same gear, just different designs on the shield, different paint scheme, this different mold or cast, I'm sorry, for his body and for his greaves. But even the accents on the greaves are the same. They're gold. His is got a little bit more yellowish, bronzes type deal to it, and his is more of a gold type. Or maybe it's because it's against a gray instead of a black that this looks more golden and that looks less golden. But the idea is he's all washed out, a washed out version of him. So, you know, the whole line in a nutshell is just the same figures over and over. No matter what anybody tells you, that is the crux of it. Now, everyone's mileage may vary. Different people might enjoy that more than others. For me, I'm kind of in between. There's certain figures that I think are amazing, and those are the ones that I'm going to, like, you know, jump into. But I wanted to show you some more. Another use of that is the Cursed Spartan. You would figure because he is a Spartan, they all essentially would look somewhat like Leonidas. Now, it always struck me as strange that their version of Leonidas doesn't just have, you know, the whole 300 look. You know, like, I would have went for that just to make him stand out more, and had him, you know, complete with the shield and the, you know, the cape and the Zephos and all that good stuff, so that we have, you know, Leonidas. But to each their own. You know, not everybody's going to want that. But as you can see with the Cursed Spartan, his details are exactly the same as the other Spartans. He's just cast in a stone, you know, kind of color. And then lastly, going back to the Athenians, we have Stonehand, the Athenian, well, we'll put Stonehand first, the Athenian warrior, and then the River Styx guardian, who once again, same details as the regular Athenians. So, you know, if you're on the fence, this is what you're getting. Now, this is, like I said, a lot of these are exclusives because of the fact that my homeboy TJ347 went all in. So since he went all in, he got, you know, Penthesilea, he got, you know, some of the, like the cursed, what do they call him, the underworld, Tartarus Guardian or Guard. He got, you know, some of the other characters that don't show up on the back of the, whatchamacallit. You know, he got like the Wave 5 guys. They don't show up on the regular. Let me move these out the way so we could look at that for a sec. They don't show up on the card back for the regular figures, because as you can see, there's only 4 waves on the standard thing from the original Kickstarter. Since then, they've done 3 more waves, 5, 6, and 7, which show up on Penthesilea and some of the River Styx Guardian, as well as the, what do they call them? The River Styx Guardian, where is he at? Berserker Disciple, that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's one of those things, like, if this appeals to you, then, you know, all these redos and redecos, they will actually be the shit for you. You'll be into them. But if you're like me, and some of this stuff just feels a little bit much, then you won't be as amazed. You won't be as impressed. A lot of the reviews I've seen on here, the people went all in, and some of them, even though, you know, the actual build of all these figures are pretty dope and the articulation is dope, they convinced themselves that they got more than what they actually got, you know? I mean, and I guess if you put in the amount of money you put in, you should feel like you got something substantial. But, you know, in reality, a lot of these are the same figure. It's not like G.I. Joe where the tooling is the same and sometimes you end up with similar figures. This is like you literally got the same figure. And I know building your troops is a big deal, but yeah, I'm kind of like, it's one thing to build my troops, and I like that they have like a hero and a troop, you know what I mean, for each group, but it doesn't feel as substantial when you look at the troop and the hero and they're like the same guy with a different head, you know, or the same guy with a slightly different paint scheme. I'm not a fan of that. I want character, you know, and that's what's lacking. You don't have that much as far as individual characters go. I mean, in this, the only character is him, the Myrmidon. And I say that because he's the only one who, there isn't like a soldier version of him. But then what they did later on was in, I think it's wave, is it 6 or 5? Let me look at the back here. It's wave 6, they released Achilles, which then in turn makes him into a soldier, which he should be because that's what the Myrmidon were. And then Achilles is the character version, the hero version of this guy. So, you know, it's a little bit weird. It's just slightly weird. Then you have the Myrmex warriors, which is slightly weird. So it all depends on what works for you. If you dig, you know, building troops and you want to spend $20 a pop on your troops, then, you know, by all means, have at it. Things like, you know, the shield details, like Penthesilea has a completely different shield from the rest of the Amazons. As you can see, there is an Amazon warrior on the shield. Penthesilea has what looks like a griffin and a some kind of horse, or it looks like just a horse. I was gonna say a unicorn, but there's no horn on it. So it looks like a griffin attacking a horse. And that's as good as it gets for that. So, you know, there's differences, you know, for some of the characters. Some figures have the 2 straight swords, like she has one here and then one long sword. Then you have the Zephos, then you have the other long sword. It's just different, you know, styles and whatnot of the same thing over and over and over. You have characters like Stheno, who has this awesome dagger. I was pretty impressed with this. It's very simple. You will see this in my shorts because I'm going to make her an important part of my Joe-verse. Let's look over here at the bad guys, the Gorgon. Okay, so now we're looking at the Gorgons, and I removed pre-curse Medusa out of the way because I don't want competition between her and Euryale. I love their look. You know, the 3 sisters have a very cool look. It's almost like, you know, before, after, way after, you know, or before it's like level 1, level 2, level 3, or level 1, level 2, level 3. Nah, I prefer this as level 3. But I love their color tone, skin tone. Love their weapons, accessories, design, the whole shebang. They look pretty damn dope. And it's pretty awesome considering what they've done with just 2 different molds, you know what I mean? Minus these legs here, or, you know, the Naga parts. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. I think they did a really awesome job. And, you know, like I said, it's a testament to what you can do with very limited parts. Now, somehow, to me, the task force figures that they did for Marauders have more variety to them. These guys seem kind of limited. I mean, some of these parts you only see once, you know, like this, but everything else you see multiple times. Now the Gorgons, they fare a little bit better than the Spartans and Amazons and such, because their designs are a little bit more varied. You know what I mean? In general, I mean, they have thematically they're the same, just like the Spartans and the Amazons. But thematically, when I say thematically, I mean, you know, you have Euryale, who's the youngest, so she's got the more pretty, you know, kind of look to her. Then you've got Medusa, who's just like vindictive and just, yeah, you know, and she looks like it. Like now she's a fighter, which is a change. This is cursed Medusa, which is a change from pre-cursed Medusa, who's more like Euryale. She's more about her looks, and she's still mad, but she still has a little bit more humanity, I guess is what I'm saying. And then you have Stheno, who looks like a snake goddess, you know what I mean? And even though the base body is the same, there's so much as far as like accessory tooling and armor tooling to separate them design-wise. So you have your own little design. And then all of the different Serpentine, you know, horde, they're all a little bit different, you know. Black Racer is really gross. What is she called? The Green Mamba. I like her. I use her as the leader of the horde. The Coral Gorgon right here, she's pretty cool too. Figure she would be like your second in command. That's why she has a helmet on. I took the helmets off of the others. And then the Colabrita guard. I like her, especially with the axes. These axes came from, I want to say they came from a different figure, but I could be wrong. But anyway, I dig the look. It's a very cool look. They have enough character amongst themselves to be individual and not feel like they are indeed the same exact figure over and over and over and over. So, you know, for that, I'm really thankful, and it makes them pretty awesome. I still have to say it, and I've probably repeated myself a lot, these characters are all based off of the same body. You start with this, then you take pieces of this and you work it into that, because that's just different armor, same body, different head. Well, you got leg armor and stuff. Then you take these legs off all together and you come up with the Naga lower half. I know that's not the only thing. The Serpentine lower half is probably a better description, but I say Naga because that's where I've seen this design more often. And you end up with just it almost feels like an entirely different figure once you add this piece. Even though she's similar to them, which I would have more kept her in line with her sisters, with the classic Medusa that has legs and just has the snake hair. But, you know, this post-curse and pre-curse idea is pretty cool, because depending on what your mileage is, you could pick one or the other, you know, or you could pick both, and, you know, season 1 she's like this, season 2 she's like that, you get what I'm saying? Or, you know, pilot she's like this, after the pilot she's like that. Jesus Christ. If I had to pick a favorite, my favorite hands down is Stheno. I'm just so surprised to see in like a Greek mythologically focused line, people of color, because you know that unlike what you have been led to believe, the people of ancient Greece, they had very tannish, you know, darker complexions. You know, I have a good friend, my friend Matt, who has the olive complexion. He's Greek as well, and it's just it's weird because, you know, Hollywood gives you one image, and then history and the actual world gives you another image. Not to say that people of varying shades don't exist, because you have varying shades, but they captured that from the darkest to, like, I want to say Stonehand is the lightest, you know. My friend Evangelia, she's kind of like here with this yellower kind of tone. But, you know, just the fact that you got like super dark, oh boy is dark. You've got, you know, Urali right there, who's kind of like caramel, like in the middle. Then you've got Stonehand, who's like super white. Then you've got this tannish, yellowish color. And then you've got her, who's, you know, straight up chocolate. It's like, it just amazes me and it makes me happy because I've said this, you know, as artists, we have all these colors in our box of proverbial crayons, so to speak, when it comes to creating characters and coloring characters. But then, you know, the default is always a white character. And then you have all these fans who have issues with, or I should say consumers, because if they were fans, they would appreciate the diversity, you know, amongst all the things that are offered in whatever the genre may be. But you have all these so-called fans who have problems with the fact that, you know, people come in different shades. And I'm like, look at all these colors. How does it make sense to only paint with one color? You know what I mean? You look at G.I. Joe, they do a good job of, you know, mixing it up. You have Asian people, Hispanic people, black people, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just amazed that in this specifically Greek themed thing, they've managed to capture all the shades. You know, the Moors went everywhere. Egyptians went everywhere. So you had mixed people back in the day. You had people who have lineage that started somewhere else and they settled in a certain place. It's not just limited to, you know, the European folks, you know, straight up European heritage. It expands all across the globe. So, you know, I love that about this thing. And my second favorite is Urali. I'd be screwed. I say that, but in reality, I wouldn't be. I've got pretty good will, but man, just imagine back in those days, you know, she's coming at you talking about, you know, join me, boobs all swinging around and stuff. You'd be like, yep. And you'd have no choice. But I really like what they've done here. They're very good. They somehow, to me, feel more unique, and I think maybe it's because of all this. They feel more unique than your Spartans and your Athenians and your Amazons and Myrmidon, because overall they almost all look like Spartans. You know what I mean? Like they all have the same helmet, they all have, you know, the same skirt piece, they all have a shield and a spear and well, actually some of them don't have spears, which is kind of, you know, it's nice to have a variety. But Potentialia, Jesus. She didn't have a spear. She just had the two swords, the shield, and then a short sword. A really short sword, almost like a dagger. But anyway, Potentialia. Why Potentialia? Penthesilea. Why do I keep messing her name up? I said it right when I was doing the little portion I was about her, and now I'm screwing it up right here. Anyway, it's been a long time since I've dove into my Greek mythology, and I could give a lesson on all these characters, but I don't want to. I want to focus on the toys because that's why we're here. And everyone else tried to give you a lesson, so, you know, if you kind of listen to all the reviews together, you'd probably get most of the information. But I say look on bossfightstudios.com and look at each of the characters and read their information on there. I would have shown you the card backs, but there's too many card backs for me to sit there and go through all of them, and I want to get more into the review. So yeah, like I said, Steno is the coolest for me. I actually bought my own Steno because I want to have a what you call it, I want to use her for something else. You know, I think she fits in line with something I came up with for, you know, my Joe-verse. So you will be seeing her elsewhere. So anyway, let's move on to some of the variants and the special, you know, releases, you know. Okay, so with the exception of the River Styx Guardian, the, what do they call, the Cursed Spartan, and the Disciple of Urali, these are your other, you know, variants. My favorite of these variants is Talos. The others are okay, you know. Once again, this guy, and this guy. It's the same figure, like I said before. The two females are somewhat the same figure, armor differences. It's like she has some of Steno's armor on, and she has the Amazon Warriors gear. But Talos is wearing the gear of the Myrmidon, and I like him based on his paint job. I really think that they did a good job with that paint job. Now, Celestial... Well, I didn't even realize I had this. I will show you this in a second. I forgot. I have Celestial, Perseus, and Medusa. The Afterlife, Spartan, and the Gorgon, I like the idea behind them, and I like the concept of them being made of glow-in-the-dark plastic, as well as, you know, these translucent plastics for their weapons and such. But I'm not a big fan of them as figures because I don't really like when my figures are like that. I mean, seeing them kind of solidifies the concept of taking the molds, or the casts, I'm sorry, and then pouring molds in every single color with every available type of plastic that you could use. And you know, while technically nothing is wrong with that, it does get old. So Perseus, the Celestial Perseus, actually let me pull back a little bit so that I can, you know, show you this better. So Celestial Perseus versus Medusa. Let's do it that way. It's just them with a funky paint job on them. I mean, you can kind of see there's like stars and sprinkles, and there's actually the two different star belts or constellations, which is pretty cool. But it's kind of cool to see the Gorgon in this, you know, scheme, and see Perseus, period, because we didn't have a Perseus before. I like it. I'm kind of, I don't know. I might end up making a Perseus because he is probably my favorite of the bunch. Because if you remember, Perseus was the hero from Clash of the Titans. So if you grew up watching the Ray Harryhausen Clash of the Titans, then, you know, Perseus is a hero of yours. And I happen to have another thing I'm working on in which we pay tribute to Perseus somewhat. So, yeah, there's that. Like I said before, I'm not a huge fan of having the same thing poured 5 billion different times, but for some of you that might be your thing. So you might enjoy that where I did not. And, you know, if so, more power to you. That is what collecting is all about, you know. I'm just telling you what works and what doesn't work, mostly on a technical level. Everything else in this, because it's a Kickstarter and there's many parts to it, it is all based on personal preference. So you will like what you like, and your friends will like what they like, and we will all get along. But my favorite, like I said, I will push these guys back a little bit so that we can focus on the one I think is the best. Actually, I'll move them out of the frame so that we can focus on my boy Talos. Look at that dude. Like he's about to throw that spear off into the sun or something. It just looks good, you know? The oxidized paint scheme, it's so beautiful. You know, it works so well. And it's one of those times where you're kind of like, huh, I never really thought about it, but, you know, these guys, you've seen them often in Greek mythology, in Greek mythologically related things. It's really nice to have a character, you know, a figure that represents this, because, you know, strangely enough, as much as we learn about Greek mythology, these guys haven't been represented that much in action figure form. I mean, I have the Perseus from Clash of the Titans, but, you know, besides that, it's really not a big representation of these characters in action figure form unless they're tied to some kind of movie or, you know, some animation or a video game. So it's nice to finally have them in action figure form and be able to display them as well. I just dig the paint scheme. I dig the mythology that goes with him. He's a guardian, you know that, from the island of Crete. I like the fact that he just looks like he is capable of dealing with supernatural threats because he himself is a supernatural being. And to me, that is hella super freaking dope. So, yeah. There is my boy Telos. Move back. Or Talos. I'm saying his name wrong. Now let's talk weapons. These are essentially the weapons that you will see with the whole entire line. These will be repeated and reused throughout the entire line. You got a nice array of swords. I really dig the Zephos because that's a sword you rarely see. You've got those daggers, the fist daggers and the standard hand dagger. I was really impressed with the second set of daggers that have like the horns and the skull on them. It's like a calf skull or something. I love Medusa's weapons too, very well done. There's just a good balance between detail and functionality. The spear is simple, but it's still pretty elegant. The Zephos looks really good. The shields, the deco or tampography on all the shields is amazing. The wear and tear that's in all of the blades, it's like slight wear. It's pretty dope. Now, one thing that's really awesome about them is that because they're 3 3/4 inch, there are parts that you can obviously use with your Joes and stuff. So as you can see here, this is my custom kit bashed guillotine, and I was able to use one of their sheaths for his sword because at this point I didn't have a proper sheath for him. So I was really geeked about, you know, my ability to, or the ability to use it this way. Now these are all of the figures that have been released thus far. We have about 7 waves in total. Right here you're seeing the first 4 waves, which is what I've pretty much reviewed. And next you will see the next 3. Some of those actually in this wave I already reviewed, but you got a lot to choose from. Prices vary from insane to doable on the secondary market. And now you have the bottom line. This line is just riddled with awesome ideas, well done engineering, and just really cool designs. I mean, yes, it's very derivative because a lot of the parts are reused over and over and over and over, but within all that framework, you get a lot of variety. So if that's what you're looking for in your line, then this is something you might want to look into. And I know for many people, the weird thing is that they're medieval, you know, they're Greek mythologically focused. So it's kind of hard to put this in with your Joe, your Joe verse. But what you could do, which is what I'm planning on doing, is some of the snake themed things, and I think they did this on purpose. They can fit in the whole, Cobra Law aspect of G.I. Joe. So for those of you who don't like that, then you probably won't like these. But for those of you who have the imagination to, allow for such a thing, this is all you. So anyway, this has been my look at the Vitruvian H.A.C.K.S by Boss Fight Studios. As always, this is my story and I'm sticking to it. And I hope you dug what I had to say. So that's it for me. You guys have been great, and I will catch you on the next review. Peace outside.